Hi there. We're going into a little more detail with Fidelity's stock screener here after maybe finding some ideas. And so that's what this video will be about. So I'm creating these videos for my mom, but just in case you're out there and perhaps your son or daughter doesn't have the time to explain how to use this tool to invest with all the different options that exist in Fidelity, well, hopefully this helps. Mainly it's to just help her and all of you out there understand what all these different tools within Fidelity's website basically are and how to use them. And so we're going to evaluate a little bit more in depth after figuring out a couple stock ideas that perhaps capture your interest. So I like to look at stocks typically because, or rather typically using their PE ratios. So PE is basically price over earnings. So it's kind of an indicator as far as how expensive or how cheap the stock might be here in today's market. And so the higher the PE, which means the higher the price versus how much they're earning as a company, versus lower PEs like banks, which might be literally valued less in terms of growth and excitement in the future, and so that's why their PE might be a lot lower. So they might not make, or rather, there might not be prices high, but still doing pretty well in terms of earning consistent income all the time. So let's look at a couple of these stocks in more details. So let's say I want to look at some low PE stocks. So here I click off low, or I could even go very low, but let's just pick the ones down here. Typically at the extremes, there's a reason why it's really bad or really good. So let's just pick a low. So in this list, I might be looking at these and going, these are interesting, but I don't know what else to say, or should I look at it in more details? Well, first off, you can change the order. So let's say I want to see the even lower PE ratios, or price over earnings. You can just click on PE and you'll flip it so that the 8.6 all the way up to 13.2 I think is the high end here. And so we can look at the lower ones here. Now, Tyson's Food is a chicken producing organization or company, and so maybe I'm familiar with it. I know what that company does, so maybe I should kind of look at this. So let's do this. We'll click on the details more in terms of the symbol and then the additional page, but let's look at some basic facts just in case. So maybe I didn't know what Tyson's Foods is, and so at least I can see here it's a food product company. It's something that a lot of people eat all the time. The dividends at 2%. The market capitalization, or how much the company's worth, is $31 billion. Volume, which I haven't really covered, but this is how many shares have traded. So how many times people have literally bought and sold the shares in the past 90 days. And so you can kind of look at that. There's also options, which we'll maybe talk about in more detail later down the road in case that is of interest. It is a little more risky, but you maybe could make more money. And then performance and volatility. Again, this is how well the stock has done. So in the past 52 weeks, it's grown 14.72%, and then its return, and I think this is basically including dividends, and so that's why you can add in those 2% plus on top of the how well the stock has done. So overall, this is the total amount that actually is returned to the investor if they bought it 1 year ago. And then remember how it's compared to, frankly, other stocks is what betas are, and standard deviation, your math. But there's all the other statistics again, and these are things that you can kind of look at, and also analyst opinions. But let's say I get really excited about this company. And so what I do is I just click on it, and it will open up a new tab for all the different details that are even more detailed than what we saw before. Now, these are the things that I look at personally. So the first thing I do is I look at the graph to see if it's grown. So this looks like it's grown a lot, right? It's, from here at $70 a share to maybe $85 a share. But I like to look at the max to see how long the history of the company has been. So you can see this has grown quite a bit over the past 20 years, 15 to 20 years. And so I also look at that period right here when basically the whole stock market crashed and how it responded. So that's something to kind of look at. I also want to make sure I look at more details of the company and then basically look at the rest of the list. And so we can go into more details. like how they compare to other companies in the industry, or maybe what the overall opinion of the company is by other stock investments. And also, this is kind of important, like whether or not they beat what other people thought they were going to make money as far as the stock. If you see that they disappointed or they did not beat what other people thought they were going to make, that's a bad sign. So these are kind of details that you'll want to look at in addition to the PE and things like that. So it is pretty high right now. So I'm thinking, maybe this is a little bit, waiting, something that I might look at when it gets down to $60 a share, or just kind of wait it out and see if it does the same thing. As you can see here, it did when the market crashed. And so this might be a great stock when it comes to the market crashing, or maybe even just investing when it gets back to $60 or so a share. So those are some things that you can look at when it comes to detail by just literally clicking on that symbol here, and then literally it will open up that extra page. And those are things that I like to look at. We'll go into more detail with more stocks, but those are some things to kind of look at and to give your idea a chance for later on. You can also add them to your watch list, or you can set alerts, or you can actually write more notes about them in order to understand them, or tell us, or tell yourself later down the road what you thought of them at that point. And then there's options again, and we'll talk about that more later. Lots of details inside Fidelity, and so frankly, we'll get to all of them at some point or another. Hopefully that helps when it comes to evaluating stocks with a little bit more detail.